Hello and welcome to the Capital OTB Stakes preview for the weekend of September 29th. Sully Crotty and Mike Callahan. How are you, Mike?
What's going on, Sully? How you doing?
I'm great. And another great weekend of racing all across the country. And our stakes preview, we usually spread it out a little bit, but it's just such a big day in New York with a terrific card. We're going to do the 4 races in New York, and then we'll look at Santa Anita as well for their opening Saturday. They have a fantastic card again, but we're going to start at Santa Anita in California with race number 11. This is the Awesome Again, a Grade 1 event going a mile and an eighth. And then we'll shift our attention for 4 in New York. Race number 7 at Belmont Park is the Vosburg, Grade 1 event, 6 furlongs on the main track. Race number 8 at Belmont Park, the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, a Grade 1 event going a mile and a half. There is $500,000 on the line there. Race number 9 at Belmont Park is the Pilgrim, a Grade 3 event going a mile and a 16th on the inner turf course. And we'll end things with race number 10 at Belmont. This is the Jockey Gold Cup, a mile and a quarter, a Grade 1 event on the main track.
And yeah, as Sully alluded to, we'll go back to Santa Anita. They do have an outstanding card on Saturday. We'll highlight the Grade 1 Awesome Again with 2 huge notable names that are going to be going on. This is going to be their preps for the Breeders' Cup Classic, potentially. And there's a field of 6. We'll go in numerical order, starting out with Shades of Victory, number 1 in this field. Going to have Martin Pedroza aboard, a horse that was actually facing much weaker competition-wise anyway. The last 3, 4, 5 starts. Last time out did face State Breds at Los Alamitos race course. Switched tactics that day, a horse that predominantly has come from off of the pace. Went to the lead that day, was able to take him wire-to-wire, gutsy victory, beating a nice horse in B squared. But the fact is, got that 95 buyer, which is best for this horse. But if you take a look at the 2 horses this horse is going to face in the likes of West Coast and Accelerate, still needs to improve in here. One of those horses that potentially rounds out your tries and supers. What are your thoughts on Shades of Glory?
It's just with the speed horses in this race, obviously, Accelerate and West Coast, this horse is going to have to run the exact same race and is going to be facing much better. The horse pulled off the upset at 80-1 last time. You're going to get a big price here again today. Possibly can hang on to complete some of your exotics.
Isotherm's the number 2, going to go off for Phil D'Amato. You're going to get Franco aboard, a horse that was running predominantly on the turf 3, 4, 5 starts back. Last time out did switch surfaces and ran an intriguing second that day. Only beating a length and a half to Dabster, who's a nice horse in his own regard. Did get an even 86 buyer that day. You take a look at the workout on September 23rd. This horse looks ready to go. Was a bullet that day, first of 101. For some reason, West Coast or Accelerate, one of those 2 horses doesn't run even their B minus game. Isotherm's an interesting horse to kind of round out the exacts. If one of those 2 horses, West Coast or Accelerate, don't run the race.
Yeah, Isotherm definitely is, and I had just outside of my mix here, but easily can close into this pace. You think the pace would be hot with Shades of Victory trying most likely to repeat a wire-to-wire job, and then West Coast always sits off the pace with Mike Smith. Accelerate as well. Joe Rosario's out there for that. For this race. So, it could be interesting. This horse could have a little bit of pace to close into, stretching out from the mile distance. The horse did run a mile and an eighth a couple starts back in early January in a Grade 2 event. Finished an okay 5th that day behind It's in the Post. So, the horse can go to the distance. Interesting to see this horse stretching out from the mile where the horse did run well last time out.
Number 3, Prime Attraction, going to go out for James Cassidy. Kent DeSormo is going to be aboard. Back-to-back third-place finishes, including last time out in the Grade 1 Pacific Classic against Accelerate. Did finish 3rd, but was beaten 16.5 as Accelerate was ultra impressive that day, winning by 12.5 lengths. Problem is, I think the connections are trying to figure out what to do with this horse. Has raced 10 times on the dirt, has raced 5 times on the turf. I actually think you take a look at the career best buyers. All 3 of those have been on the turf. I know this horse is going to go back onto the dirt after running on the turf 2 starts back. But for me, I think this horse is a little bit better on the turf, so I'll use as a little bit of a pass in this spot, being on the dirt.
Yeah, I had the same approach here. The horse, to me, this looks better on the grass, but they're going to take a shot here to see what they have here. The horse has improved a little bit on the dirt course, so to me, 4 starts back against Accelerate. I thought it was a great effort to come in second that day by a length and 3/4. So Again, I agree. I think it's better on the turf. Just trying to see what this horse can do again against a smaller field, but two really standout horses.
Number 4, the Lieutenant, going to go out for Mike McCarthy. Flavien Prat's going to be aboard. 2 and 3 back had some really nice performances, including that win 3 back and a grade 3 at Golden Gate, and 2 starts back. Did finish the solid second behind Diversify. Was beaten 6.5, but we know how good Diversify is, and will be running on Saturday's card as well at Belmont Park. But you take a look at the last one out. It was a little bit of a dud in the Pacific Classic. Finished 6th. Can this horse bounce back? And if so, it's going to be a price.
Yeah, this horse definitely is going to be a price. I think the horse can bounce back. I have the horse as my long shot in this spot. Going to be interesting to see how much money this horse will take. Obviously, you get Flavien Prat aboard, who's won a couple of racing titles, the last 2 actually at Santa Anita. And the horse does have a closing kick, so this pace is really hot. The Lieutenant and Isotherm could be closing late.
And on to the big matchup that we have here in horses number 5 and 6. We'll start out with the number 5, West Coast, Bob Baffert, Mike Smith. Really needs no introduction at all. A horse that was so good last year, obviously winning the Travers, and a minor upset at 6-1 that day. You still can't believe the price you got last year in the Travers. Went on to win the Pennsylvania Derby, finished a solid 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Went on to finish a really, really good 2nd in the Pegasus World Cup, when I know that you were high on West Coast that day, and I thought, ran a career best 117 Beyer. And everybody kind of thought he was going to take the lead in the division, but really ran a little bit of a dud in the Dubai World Cup that day. On March 31st against Thunder Snow, was 2nd, but was beaten 5 3/4 lengths that day. Coming off of a long layoff, hasn't been seen since that March 31st race. What are your thoughts with him? His workout pattern's been pretty good, but against the likes of Accelerate and how good he is right now, where do you have him in the mix?
Obviously, you got to keep West Coast in your mix. You're playing exotics or any multiples here, and you could see, because the Dubai World Cup, out that little bit of layoff since January, I did not think it was a terrible performance there. We're going to see how Thunder Snow bounces back after throwing in a little bit of a clunker last time out. So you're going to be able to see how Thunder Snow does in the Jockey Gold Cup, and then you can kind of see where you want to place West Coast. So you can take that kind of approach, but I think we'll come out and run a big race, as they always do, Baffert and Mike Smith. But as you said, the Travers and the PA Derby were just really nice performances. The Pegasus World Cup looked like the horse would get by Gun Runner on the rail, but just couldn't do it. So I think off that Dubai World Cup effort, I think has the potential to run a really big race here. It's going to be interesting to see how much money this horse takes.
Yeah, a horse that's never been out of the money at 11 career starts, and they have very similar running styles. You take a look at West Coast and Accelerate, they want to sit just off the lead, so we'll see where everybody's spotted in here and who gets better position, with Mike Smith and Joel Rosario trying to work out trips. On to number 6, Accelerate, will probably be your morning line favorite. We're looking at this race on Thursday afternoon, and we don't have morning line odds on here, so obviously when you take a look at it, you may hear a couple things differently. You might like a horse a little bit better when the odds do come out, but Accelerate probably will be your morning line favorite, going out for John Sadler. Joel Rosario is going to be aboard off that impressive Grade 1 victory in the Pacific Classic last time out, winning by 12.5, getting that career best 115 Beyer. You could say potentially there may be a slight regression in here, and the fact that West Coast is in the mix kind of changes up things in here. But what are ultimately your thoughts on Accelerate? Have to use in the 1 or 2 slot.
In the Pacific Classic, as you said, that was just a really, really nice performance, winning by 12.5. And, Joel Rosario, that was just a little bit of a question mark. I know the horse was the favorite, but Victor Espinoza recovering from an injury. Joel Rosario went out for the weekend and absolutely looked phenomenal on the horse. So, there is a ton of speed in this race, and in races where there is some other speed, the horse tends not to run as well, but if the horse isn't on the lead like we saw last time out, it should not be an issue. So going to be interesting to see where Joel places the horse, because you would have to think West Coast would be in front of Mike Smith, would actually be in front of Joel Rosario. So it might be interesting to see where Accelerate will sit, or if Joel Rosario wants to go right to the lead.
All right, what are your thoughts here in the Grade 1 Awesome? Again, you have to think that a lot of people are going to try the angle that we're probably going to take, using Accelerate West Coast or vice versa, and then trying to round out an exact or a trifecta or a super, either straight, just trying to play it, West Coast Accelerate over a couple other horses. What are your thoughts here on the 11th on Saturday?
I did go with Accelerate on top, and West Coast is has really nice bullet workouts that stare at you right in the face, isotherm as well. But it's just off that last performance. The last two performances really, the Santa Anita Gold Cup and then the Pacific Classic, I have to take Accelerate on top. West Coast underneath, and the Lieutenant, I think, can run a big race, especially with this pace being hot with Shades of Victory. Probably going to try to play Catch Me If You Can. Accelerate and West Coast will push the pace even more. This horse gets a little bit of a pace to run into. Flavian Proud's great at closing, especially with Santa Anita. So I have the Lieutenant underneath as a long shot, but the top two seem kind of obvious here in this spot.
Yeah, the recent form of Accelerate you have to kind of use on top. It's not that West Coast isn't as good as a horse as him. It's just he may need a race in this spot coming off of a long layoff. But if he's ready to go, we always kind of question. Maybe it's stupid of us to question Bob Baffert in these situations, because every time you have a question of maybe he's not ready, Bob Baffert's always able to get the job done. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. But I'm going to use a straight try in here. I'm just going to go Accelerate over West Coast. I think those are obviously the top two horses in here. I'll use Isotherm in the third spot, and then I have the Lieutenant in the fourth spot. So if you're looking for a straight super in this type of situation, boxing in this type of field, with the way the odds are going to go, it doesn't really usually make too much money as far as profiting here. So for me, it's either a straight try or a straight super in this spot. We'll see what happens in race number 11 on Saturday at Santa Anita. All right, we'll switch and take a look at Belmont, as you alluded to. It's a huge day at Belmont, as we do have Jockey Gold Cup Day. We'll start out, though, in race number 7. It's the Grade 1 Vosburg, $350,000 purse. And you have one notable name in here, Imperial Hint, who's 1-5 on the morning line. The number 6 we'll get to in a second, but we'll start out with number 1. Sight for Sore Eyes, going to go out for Anthony Cordero. David Cohen's going to be aboard 30-1 on the morning line. Last time out, raced against in an optional claimer at Kentucky Downs, going the mile. On the turf, does switch to the dirt, does cut back in distance, but off that 9th place performance. You think this horse can improve to get in the mix? And if so, where do you have him?
I had to ultimately pass here, and Anthony Corderola had such a nice Saratoga meet with several winners and some really nice prices. Him and Luch win a lot of races together. You get David Cohen aboard, who's been riding great since Saratoga. He's been running in the money on some big-priced horses. To me, I think the horse should have stayed on the turf. And they're switching trainers. They're going to take a shot here. This horse most likely will get to the lead or sit right off of it. I just think it's a very big ask to sprint against a pretty nice Grade 1 field here, including Imperial Hint, who looked so dominant last time. So for me, if you're a super player, I would look elsewhere, because there are some big prices that can make some noise in here.
Another price is number 2, Maniacal, going to go up for Mike Maker. Johnny V's going to be aboard. Another one, 30-1 on the morning line. Does have a couple races that would put this horse maybe in play, but they've been so erratic. You take a look at the 2-back race where this horse ran a 90 buyer, finished third, only being a half length to Jazzy Times. That was sprinting 5.5 on the turf. So there is the question going back to the dirt. But you take a look at that one race at Keeneland going 7 furlongs, albeit was at a $20,000 claiming level. Did finish second against a decent horse in there as well. Getting onto the dirt is a little bit of a question mark, as I said and alluded to, but the fact that he's 7 for 7 as far as being in the money, does have those 3 wins, obviously getting a stiff class test, the likes of Imperial Hint, but maybe one of those live long shots in here to kind of get a piece of it.
Right, I could definitely see that. This horse hanging on for 4th, is just, you kind of alluded to. This horse is just speed. Has done nothing wrong in the third. It has been against much weaker. It is getting stepping up in class against a really nice field here. But there is some other speed in here, so I think Johnny B needs to get to the lead and try to play Catch Me If You Can and try to hang on for a spot for 3rd or 4th here if you're a trifecta super player.
The number 3 is Forge, and this is the long shot I want in here. 20-1 on the morning line. I'm going to go out for Dermot Magner, Manny Franco, and again, that price to me, I hope it holds. Blinker's going to go on. This horse has been racing in Claiming Company, and you say, well, such a huge class jump for this horse. Dermot Magner claimed this horse last time out off of Mike Maker, and Dermot Magner doesn't claim horses very often, so obviously he saw something he liked in this horse. Blinker's going to go on, and you take a look at a couple of these races. Go back to January of this year. Went wire to wire, got a 104 buyer. Compared to anybody in this field, the only one that would really clobber this horse in this spot would be Imperial Hint. So if you're looking at exacta plays, I have this horse in the exacta spot to kind of round it out. Going to be very, very tough to beat Imperial Hint. He breaks well. The race is pretty much his to win in this spot. But Forge at a huge price to me is going to round out my exacta play. I think he's a live long shot here.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as well. There was a stretch of last year where Forge won 3 in a row and really did look pretty incredible there. That win by 9 lengths, as you said, at Aqueduct, and took a lot of money in an allowance race, rightfully so, won that race, went to the optional claiming level, won that race, and then kind of threw in a clunker and went back to the right ways, losing by a neck. So everything's very interesting for this horse. I like that they're taking a shot here in this field. They definitely have the potential to grab some purse money.
On to number 4, Mr. Crow, going out for Ben Coldbrook. Louis Sai is going to be aboard 5-1 on the morning line. This horse, last 2 races have been 4th and 5th place finishes, including that 2-back race in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt Stakes, the Grade 1 against Imperial Hint up at Saratoga, when Imperial Hint just looks so impressive. Does have a nice workout on September 15th, was 8 of 47 that day, went a quick 47-3 for the 4 furlongs. For me, conversely to what I said about Forge, I'm not sure what to do with this horse at the price you're going to get. Is bet down the last 5 times and hasn't been able to get the job done. Is 1 for 6 in the last 6 races. But if you're just taking a look at quality of fields this horse has faced, is one of the classiest in the field. So it's one of those, whatever your interpretation is of the horse.
Right, and I know some people that are big fans of Mr. Crow. Personally, I'm with you. I couldn't take any higher than where I have the horse in my mix. And as you said, takes a lot of money, throws in a clunker, and then doesn't take too much money and runs huge in fields where it should not run huge. So the horse has raced against much better, as you said, and looked great at Churchill Downs entering into Saratoga. I gave a pass going into the Vanderbilt. Actually ran a lot better than I thought the horse could. So, 5-1 is just a little short to take on top for Mr. Crow.
Number 5, Silver Ride, going to go out for Brian Lynch. Jose Ortiz is going to be aboard 8-1 on the morning line. A horse that's finished 11 of 19 in the money, including 5 wins over the dirt surface. Just taking a look at the racing pattern, it's been very erratic for this horse. Was coming off of a long layoff 2 starts back. Hadn't been seen since May of 2017. The race that this horse raced then was June 22nd, so was coming off of a year-plus layoff. But got the job done by a nose, getting a 95 buyer in an optional claiming event. Then last time out, went into a restricted stakes up at Saratoga. Ran an even third that day to Always Sunshine and behind My Boy Tate that day. So for me, one of those horses that I just think needs to get into a little bit of a race flow. Is 3rd start of 2018, so you'll like to see that. Maybe is on a peak effort in this spot. And you're going to get an interesting price, 8-1 on the morning line. I think this horse could potentially go off as the 2nd choice in this spot.
Yeah, the horse definitely could, and I could see this horse taking more money than Mr. Crow just because this horse beat Stallwalk and doing it in an optional claimer and ran a nice race in a restricted stakes. So they're going to try the graded stakes company here, and the horse has raced in some optional claiming fields that were stakes quality earlier on in the career. So Silver Ride, I agree. I think will go off as the 2nd choice in this field. Does have 2 wins over the surface at the distance. Only 1 win, but is running the money 5 of 7 times.
Number 6, Imperial Hint. 1-5 on the morning line. Javier Castellano is going to be aboard. Just take a look at the workout pattern. The workout pattern is just unbelievable. Quick workouts, bullets everywhere, all over the sheet. You take a look at the last one, 46-2 going to 4 furlongs at Parks. You take a look at the overall body of work. Just take a look at the buyers alone. You didn't know anything about anybody else. Just take a look at the buyers. This horse is leaps and bounds better, has versatility, can go to the lead, can sit off of it. The last 2 has been sitting just off the leaders. An impressive winner last time up at Saratoga in that Grade 1 event. Got a 108 buyer. For me, if this horse breaks well, there's going to have to be some unknown variables for this horse not to win in this type of spot. 1-5 seems a little bit of an overlay. Probably going to go off at 1-9 in this race when all is said and done. But there's just a lot to like with Imperial Hint.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat Imperial Hint. And, this starts out to pick 5, so I'm pretty sure 99% of the pick 5
You wouldn't say it's a free square, but it's almost close, too, because there's nothing free in horse racing, but It almost looks like it on paper.
It definitely is. And as you said, those workouts are just unbelievable. And you get Javier up again. Javier's done nothing wrong. The Churchill Downs threw in a little bit of a clunker. That was a really, really sloppy sealed track. So, just a lot going right for Imperial Hint. And, I really don't like singling in the first leg of a pick 5, but this is definitely one of these situations where you definitely can and try to beat some of the favorites later on.
Number 7 is Still Crazy, going to go out for Ray Handel. 15-1 on the morning line. Rod Ortiz Jr. is going to be aboard, back-to-back winner against Claiming Company in the last two is getting a steep class increase in here against the likes of Imperial Hen and also some other classy horses in this spot. So the step up is a little bit of a question mark, but you take a look at a horse that likes it here at Belmont, been in the money 4 of 6, including a couple victories, and loves the distance, 13 of 20 as far as the distance goes, including 6 wins. For me, is one of those horses in here that's going to be a value play as well for me. I like Forge at 20 to 1. I like Still Crazy at 15 to 1 to kind of round out exactas and tries over the likes of Mr. Crow and Silver Ride, who I think are going to get bet down and maybe are a little too erratic for me. But I have the horse in the 3rd spot and right my mix.
Yeah, I have this horse as my long shot in here, and this horse raced great against Westwood, who went on to look unbelievable after that. Beats a nice Naira horse and Very, Very Stella and Professor Snape. So, if you want, if you're looking for a price, this 15 to 1, Still Crazy, is definitely that price for you. Going out for Ray Handel, who you can't speak high enough of, who's had a great Saratoga meet. He's off to a great start at Belmont Park. So Rod Ortiz is going to play Catch Me If You Can. This horse is definitely the speed on paper. Try to make Imperial Hint in a little uncomfortable spot.
All right, what are your ultimate choices here in the 7th race at Belmont?
Imperial Hand on top. I'm going to play the pick 5, and I'm most likely going to single this horse. Silver Ride underneath, for Brian Lynch. I thought it was a great effort last time out. Looked great 2 back in a stakes-like optional claimer. It does have a little bit of speed. It's going to be sitting right off the pace. And Still Crazy I have as my long shot play in here for Ray Handel. Just to play Catch Me If You Can and Rod Ortiz maybe potentially could slow down the fractions and make it interesting at the top of the lane.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Everybody's going to be all over Imperial Hen as far as the single and the pick 5, and rightfully so. He just looks to be that much better than everybody on paper. Underneath, I'm going to try to beat the second and third choices in here with Forge in the 2nd spot to run out a nice exacta. Hopefully, comes back 15 or 20 bucks. If you have a $20 exacta, 6-3 in this spot, maybe you can make some money. I'll throw the 7 in the 3rd spot and use some exactas as well. 15 to 1 on the morning line, Still Crazy. I think those two offer some value in here in a race that looks to be value. There's no value in this spot with Imperial Hand at 1 to 5. Maybe we'll try to make some of our own value in here. I'll go 6, 3, and 7 in the Grade 1 Vosburg. All right, that's going to take us to our first break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some more action at Belmont on a loaded set. Welcome back to the Caplo TV Stakes Preview for this upcoming weekend, September 29th, as we're almost to October. It's unbelievable how time flies. But we are up to race number 8 on Saturday at Belmont. It's the Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, going 1.5 miles on the turf. And we were talking before we popped back on, this race is absolutely loaded. It's very hard to figure out on paper, but we will try to, and we'll walk you through it with number 1, Robert Bruce, 2 to 1 on the morning line. Is going to be your morning line favorite, going off for Chad Brown. Rod Ortiz Jr. is going to be aboard. Winner last time, got up and got the job done in the Grade 1 Arlington Million. That was going 1.25 miles. The stretch out to 1.5 miles doesn't seem to be a concern. And you just take a look at the overall body work for this horse. 8 for 9 as far as wins goes, with the only blemish being 2 starts back in the Manhattan, where this horse, or if you remember, the Manhattan was a blanket finish for almost everybody. Finished 6th, but was only beaten a length that day and really had a tough trip. Robert Bruce has done nothing wrong in this spot and is a deserved favorite at 2 to 1.
Yeah, definitely a deserving favorite, and now a little bit shorter of a field than in the Manhattan. Looked great in the Arlington Million. Did not a great start in the Arlington Million, but a great finish for this horse. This horse wants to come off the pace, but is going to be sitting a little bit closer, I would think, today. And just because of that Manhattan performance, the horse got stuck between a lot of horses and had nowhere to run. Had probably the most horse left in that race. So 8 for 9 lifetime. Very, very impressive out of the Chad Brown barn. A deserving 2 to 1 favorite.
Number 2, High Happy, Todd Pletcher, Luis Saez. 6 to 1 on the morning line offers some good value. Now, I've always been on the High Happy bandwagon. This horse was so good earlier part of this year, winning the likes of the Grade 1 Man of War at Belmont. That was going to 1.3 mile, so does have a victory over the turf course. The last two, though, were a little bit of head scratchers. In the Bowling Green, you thought potentially High Happy just didn't like the soft turf course that day. And last time out in the Sword Dancer, where they did go a little bit of slow fractions that day. Anybody remembers Glorious Empire was able to take them wire to wire. High Happy finished fourth, beaten 4.5. Again, you're going to see a jockey change, and I think that's going to be a huge upgrade in here. I know Johnny V was on the last couple times. I'm not sure if he got along with the horse that well, but Luis Saez has. You take a look at the last four for Luis Saez, include a couple of victories. So I like seeing Luis Saez back aboard. 6-1's offer value. I'm going to stick with High Happy one more time in this spot. I think he offers some good value.
Yeah, I have High Happy right in my mix. There's a ton of value, as you already said. Luis Saez back in the irons, which is nice to see. He ran the horse extremely well. Lost twice on the horse, but that was combined by a length and a half, and one of those being in the Manhattan. So this is a horse that may get lost on the odds board a little bit. Runs well at Belmont Park. Todd Pletcher always has this horse ready. I'm excited, and we've seen this throughout the NYRA circuit. If you're on the lead in these marathon races, it might be tough to catch you. High Happy and Channel Maker most likely going to be towards the front. So I think getting towards the front, slowing it down like we've always seen, especially in the NYRA circuit, could be dangerous at a big price.
Number 3, Sailor's Joy, Tom Albatrani, Javier Castellano, 5-1 on the morning line. And this is one of those horses that is just tough to figure out. Is always coming with a really big closing kick. You take a look at the Grade 1 Manhattan that we just talked about previously with High Happy. Was storming home late, finished second, beating a neck to Spring Quality that day, but was flying at the end. You think the 1.5 miles this horse will love, but just time and time again, this horse is bet down. Consistently runs in the money, but just isn't able to be there to win the race. So for me, one of those horses that you could absolutely use underneath, but for me was just way too tough to use as a win candidate at 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1 I couldn't play on top. This horse wants nothing to do with the pace, and then wants to come late, and it's really hit or miss. This horse didn't run at all last time out. Very slow fractions in the Bowling Green. The horse ran great, just couldn't get to the wire. Was sitting right there behind a dead heat. Lost by a neck in the Manhattan. That was a perfect trip against a little bit quicker a fraction. So 5-1, too short for me to take on top, but I definitely think can complete some supers and tries here.
Number 4 is Carrick, and this is going to be another one that's quite interesting. Is a 3-year-old facing older in this spot. Going out for Tom Morley, 8-1 on the morning line. Johnny V is going to stay and has been aboard for the last two, including that upset in the Grade 1 Secretariat on the undercard of the Arlington Million. Did be analyzed it that day, who looked to have the race won, and Carrick was able to kind of grind down that day, win that race by a neck, got a career best 97 buyer. Facing Olders is a question mark. Stretching out from 1.25 miles to 1.5 miles is a little bit of a question mark. So maybe this horse gets lost in the shuffle. But this horse, if this horse can just improve a little bit off of that last race, is absolutely in the mix.
I agree with you there, and I remember watching this race on Arlington Million in the clubhouse at Saratoga, and I was ready to watch it, and someone said, go put $10 on Tom Morley here, and the horse was 40-1. I got it in right before the race went off. The horse won, and then it was a nice pay there for a $10 bet. But horse is 2 for 2 at Belmont. You get Tom Morley, who's struggling a little bit early stages in the meet. Johnny V's back on in the iron. So this horse, I think, if it keeps improving like we've seen throughout the 4 starts, 8-1 is very interesting and appealing price.
Number 5 is a Euro shipper in here. That's Teodoro. 15-1 on the morning line. You're going to get Ryan Moore to come over and ride this horse. Last time, a little bit of a dud. Finished 16th at York over in Great Britain, going the 1 3/4 miles distance. So where a lot of these are actually stretching out in distance, Teodoro is going to be cutting back. Go back to the 2-back race where this horse raced in group company. It was a Group 3 race. Won that race by 3 1/4, going the 1 5/16 distance. So distance shouldn't be a problem with this horse. It's the fact that this horse has only raced once in group company, so it's probably getting a little bit of an acid test in this type of spot. You like to see Ryan Moore.
Yeah.
You like to see the price of 15-1. So maybe one of those horses to use, especially if you're playing the pick 5. You could single Imperial Hint race at 4. Maybe you spread in here and hope for the likes of the number 5 Teodoro to win this race at a big price.
Yeah, this is one of those horses that you don't want to lose to Ryan Moore at 15-1, just like in Woodward you didn't want to lose to Mike Smith at 40-1. So if you're an exotic or if you're a multiple player, I think this is a must use underneath. But as you said, look great too back. But last time out threw in a really big clunker there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this horse progresses coming to America with a really nice bullet work, a really nice workout at Belmont Park already.
Number 6, Spring Quality, Graham Motion, Edgar Prado, 4-1 on the morning line last time out. Ran a decent third, beaten 3 3/4 lengths to Glorious Empire. Again, there was no pace that day. Spring Quality sat about 5th the entire way. Was able to beat a couple in there, but ultimately couldn't get to the winner that day, Glorious Empire. Thought that was a really decent performance. You take a look at the fact that this horse has been consistent as far as buyers. The last 4 races have been 100-plus buyers, including the 2-back upset win at 18-1 in the Grade 1 Manhattan. I had this horse just outside of my mix, but for me, I wouldn't be shocked to see this horse get bet down in this spot, and definitely looks to be one of those horses as a win candidate.
Yeah, I love Spring Quality, and heading into Manhattan, I really liked the horse because I thought Robert Bruce was everything on paper. This horse lost 3/4 of a length. Robert Bruce went out to win the Manhattan after a very, very impressive ride by Edgar Prado from being in the 13 hole there. It was a really nice ride there. I think the pace is a little bit slow here today, so Edgar's going to have to be a little bit closer to the pace. I think if this horse runs a repeat race in the Sword Dancer where the horse is sitting 4 1/4 off, I think this horse can win. Hopefully stays at that 4-1 price.
Number 7, Highland Sky, Barkley Tag, 12-1 on the morning line. Manny Franco's going to be aboard. Go back to that 3-back race. Did win going the mile 3 ace here over the Belmont Turf Course. That was in an optional claimer. The last 2 have been a graded stakes company, but the finishes haven't been very good. Back-to-back 5th place finishes. For me, one of those horses that really just needs to improve in every area. Possibility if there's a quick pace in here, but there doesn't seem to be that much speed in this type of spot. Highland Sky, to me, I had to pass.
Yeah, I definitely had to pass as well, and I think the horse needs some fast pace, like you said, but it's going to be hard to throw out Barkley Tag, who's got 3 wins and 5 starts already at this meet. Manny Franco's riding excellent again, like he usually does, and has at the recent meets in the Naira circuit, so I had to pass on Highland Sky. This horse wants nothing to do with the lead at all, so it's going to be interesting to see how fast his pace is today.
Another one to figure out, and to me is just been one of those horses that has the hot cold theory, is Channel Maker, the number 8 in here. 9-2 on the morning line. Billy Mott, Jose Ortiz. You're going to get a switch from Joel Rosario because he's going to be out of town to Jose Ortiz, so you'll like to see that. Does have that second place performance last time out in the Sword Dancer where they went really slow pace, as I alluded to. Glorious Empire was able to hang on, but Channel Maker ran a really nice race. Go to the 2-back win in the Bowling Green where it was a dead heat with Glorious Empire. This horse rock solid form of recent. I'm just not sure if this horse can repeat off those last 2, but you like the value at 9-2.
Definitely like the value at 9-2, and as you said, you don't really know what you're getting here with this horse, and you like the connections with Gary Barber and Bill Ma. Jose Ortiz is definitely a nice backup to Joel Rosario, and Glorious Empire just looked great the last 2 starts at Saratoga, and that's why I think this horse can be a little bit dangerous. There's not a bunch of speed on here. If Channel Maker wants to get to the lead, nobody's better at slowing down a race on the grass, especially these marathon races. Jose Ortiz is probably the best at doing that.
All right, what are your thoughts here in the Grade 1 at Joe Hirsch Turf Classic?
I think it's going to be tough for Robert Bruce to win this race. I have just outside of my mix. I'm going to use in my pick 5s and pick 4s, but I went with Spring Quality on top. I think this horse runs a repeat race of the Sword Dancer where Edgar places this horse closer to the pace because there's not a bunch in here, and gets a closing kick jump on High Happy and Robert Bruce and others. Channel Maker in the second spot. Jose Ortiz is going to do a great job slowing down the pace up front. There's not too much other pace. High Happy as well. I just think you got to be close to the lead here. You don't want to be too far off, especially in the short field. Usually they stay close packed, but sometimes, especially going these distances, they can spread out on the backstretch. So I have the 6, 8-2, Robert Bruce just outside in the 4th spot.
Yeah, I have a 2, 1, 6, and 4. I do have High Happy on top. I'm going to give him one more shot. I like to see Luis Saez get back aboard, and I know you're high on that as well. You go back to that Man of War race. I thought that was really nice. A horse that's going to be close to the lead, if not on it, and we'll see if he's able to navigate a trip going the 1.5-mile distance. Maybe able to slow it down and lull him to sleep, get the job done. Underneath, Robert Bruce in the 2nd spot. For me, absolutely deserved favorite. Had a really good closing kick to beat Almanar last time out in the Arlington Million, and for me, just nothing wrong. It's the fact that people aren't going to like the price in this spot and try to beat him and potentially may be able to do so, but we'll see on Saturday. And then Spring Quality, your top choice in the 3rd spot. Again, if he goes back to runs that Manhattan race, a horse that's going to be storming home late, just like Sadler's Joy did in that race as well. And then in the fourth spot I have, in my long shot play, is going to be Carrick. I know it's a 3-facing olders, but this horse has some ability, and I don't think Tom Worley would have put this horse in this spot unless he had as much ability as he thinks he does. And we'll see if that happens on Saturday. A horse that's 2 for 2 at at Belmont over the surface. So we'll see if he's able to get the job done. If you're taking a look at the pick 5, and we kind of alluded to the Imperial Hand as a possible free square in this pick 5 sequence, there's 2 horses on this race that I probably wouldn't throw out. That's Teodoro at 15 to 1, and then also Carrick at 8 to 1. You don't want to get beat by them, so just throw them in there regardless of where you have them in your mix, because they're going to offer some good value, and they would knock you out in the pick 5, and then everybody's kind of upset in those type of situations. So we'll see what happens in the Grade 1 at Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, race number 8 on Saturday. All right, we'll take a look at the race number 9, which is the Grade 3 Pilgrim. $200,000 purse for 2-year-olds. They're going to go a mile and a 16th on the inner turf. We have a field of 10 in here, starting out with number 1, Rhythm with Soul, going out for John Kimmel. Louise Sy is going to be aboard. A long shot in here, 15 to 1 on the morning line. A horse that stormed home from 11 lengths off, going 5.5, sprinting on the turf at Saratoga to get up and win by a neck. That was a very impressive closing kick. Had to go 6 wide to do so, but came down the lane straight and strong. Now stepping up Integrated Stakes Company against the likes of a lot of horses that won last time out or were in Stakes Company last time and did really well. So for me at 15 to 1, while everybody had an impressive race last time out, I ultimately had to leave out of my mix, but could be one of those horses that likes to stretch out and is coming late.
Yeah, and I had to leave out as well. I think the stretch out may be a little bit much for this horse, even though it's technically not 2 turns at Belmont. This horse can't be sitting 11 lengths off, especially if the pace is going to be slow. We've seen Dashing Dan get to the front and slow down the pace. The number 3 horse, and some of these horses will sit up front, and we have seen these horses run well in slow paces. So if the pace is slow, I think Rhythm with Soul potentially can get up to complete a superfecta. I just think I have a tough time, especially on the stretch out here, and Joel Rosario being out of town.
Number 2, 40 under, Jeremiah Engelhart. Manny Franco, 6 to 1 on the morning line. This horse was a little bit disappointing in the debut, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, but when it got onto the turf course, put a huge improvement. Set just off the speed that day, going the mile and the 16th up at Saratoga. Got the job done, going away by a length and a half at 20 to 1 that day. Went a quick time of 1:41 and 4 for that mile and 16th distance. You like to see the Manny Franco, Jeremiah Engelhart combo. They're 28% this year. When they team up, there's a lot to like at 6 to 1.
There is a lot to like. I have 40 under right in my mix. Actually, I have a 40 under on top here, and I was just very impressed with last time out. I think the pace will be a little bit high. I think the 47 to 3 is a pretty accurate fraction. This horse will see again. And as you said, Jeremiah and Manny, they're phenomenal together. Jeremiah is winning 11% of his graded stakes races. He's taking advantage of his only 18 starts, winning 11% of them. So I think this horse has potential to be very, very competitive at a big price.
Number 3, Dashing Dan, going out for Michael Dilger. Channing Hill's going to be aboard, 15 to 1 on the morning line. This horse got the job done in the second career start up at Saratoga. Against maiden special weights that day, going the mile and 16th distance. Showed speed, kind of lulled them to sleep. You take a look at the fractions, they were really, really slow. But ultimately, and all favored Dashing Dan that day, got the job done by 3 3/4 lengths, getting a 66 Beyer, which is comparable to the field in here. Maybe another long shot you could use in here. Again, we're just kind of forming our pick 5 play as we go about, and we keep talking about it. This may be a horse that you don't want to overlook in the pick 5, even if you don't have in the mix. Just use him because he could blow up at it, essentially, if you have a free square with Imperial Hand.
Yeah, you definitely can. And, there is some speed in here. I think Channing Hill is going to do the same thing for Michael Dilger, try to slow down the pace. But I think there's just too much speed in here for this horse to sneak away and run 50 half miles. So I agree. I think you need to use in your pick 5s, pick 4s, pick 3s. For a win candidate, I think it might be a little bit tough for this horse.
Number 4 is Vineyard Sound, going to go out for Michael Dilger. And again, it's worth noting, he obviously had the 3 that we just talked about. He has the 4 in here. And this is the one I wanted at a price, 12 to 1 on the morning line. But Michael Dilger's 2 for 4 so far as wins goes at Belmont so far during the fall, and has a 3rd place performance as well. So all of his horses have been running well. Again, Edgar Prado's going to be aboard. This horse showed speed in the career debut, going 7 furlongs. That race was originally scheduled on the turf, was washed off. And I thought it was a good performance against Standard Deviation, who's going to go on to do some nice things. And I think going back onto the turf, you take a look at the pedigree. He's out of Stormy Atlantic. Stormy Atlantic is a sire's 15% with turf starters. You take a look at the dam. She won 3 of 7. I think Vineyard Sound's going to get lost in the shuffle, and if so, we get a nice price in here. I think this horse is eligible to win in this spot, and I have it right on top.
Yeah, and I have the horse just outside of my mix here, and I agree. I think that stretch out will help out this horse. Edgar Prado will be in a great spot for this horse, and as you said, Mike Dilger's off to a great start at Belmont Park. His horses are all running well, and off these type of layoffs, 30 to 60 days, he's winning. He's winning 17% of his starts, so 12-1 offers a lot of value with Edgar Prado aboard.
Number 5 is the morning line favorite. That's Opry, Todd Pledger, Javier Castellano, 9-5 on the morning line. A horse that got the job done in the Grade 3 with anticipation. Didn't win the debut and then stepped up in the Graded Stakes Company going first time onto the turf. Obviously, they knew they had a good one in here as Todd Pletcher was able to get the job done. The horse came from off the pace that day, got a 78 buyer, beat Some Like It Hot Brown, who's also in the mix. In here and is the number 7 we'll touch upon a little bit later. I thought that was a really nice performance. You take a look at the workout since that win. Was a bullet, first of 31, going 48-4 of the turf course up at Saratoga. For me, there's just a lot to like with Opry. The problem is the price. 9-5 probably could get bet down in here to 7-5, 6-5, and I think people are just going to take a look, say it's a baby race in this spot, and potentially you could find some other value in here. Opry is definitely the horse to beat off that last performance, but I just think the price is going to lead some people elsewhere.
Yeah, the price drew me away as well, and as you said, was very impressive last time out. I still think needs to run a repeat performance, and I don't think the horse is going to run against a 47-4. There is a potential that this pace could be slowed down, but if the pace is fast, it sets up perfectly for Opry and Javier Castellano. But as you said, taking nothing away, this horse deserves to be the favorite off that performance last time out.
Number 6 is got to be one of the best to pronounce. Ole Moly. Ole Moly going out for Guadalupe Prasado, 30-1 on the morning line. David Cohen, winner last time out at Delaware against being in special weights, going the mile and 70-yard distance over the turf course. Got a really low 49 buyer, though. Now stepping up into Graded Stakes Company. For me, I'm just going to have to use the wait-and-see approach if this horse has that much ability. Is that a hard spun? And being offspring of hard spun is going to show speed. Did so last time out, but for me, I just had to pass.
I did too. And if this horse beats me out, it kicks me out of the pick 5, then that's on me. But as you said, I think this needs to really step up a little bit. Was very impressive at Delaware Park, but it's going to be facing much better here today. And David Cohen not really known for winning these turf routes.
Number 7, Some Like It Hot Brown, going out from Mike Maker, Ryder Tees Jr. 7-2 on the morning line. Last time out, did finish second to Opry, who is your morning line favorite. I thought that was a really nice performance. Go back to the 2-back where the horse broke the maiden. Won by 8+ lengths that day at the mile and an 8 distance. Going to the mile and 16th like last time out shouldn't be concerned. And the workout pattern's been pretty good. Another one that fits perfectly in this spot.
Yeah, if you like Opry at all and you're willing to take that 9-5 price, you got to take a look at some Like It Hot Brown. You're getting a way better price. The horse ran a great race, looked great 2 starts back, and seems to like running on the turf course with some distances. So I think this horse will be ready. Had a little bit of a quick turnaround in Saratoga, but now I think we'll be ready since running on August 29th.
Number 8 is Social Paranoia, and this is a fun one to take a look at. Todd Pletcher, Johnny V, 10-1 on the morning line. Blinkers going to go on. This horse is still a maiden. Hasn't been able to get the job done in 4 career starts, but does have 3 quality second-place performances, including last time out to 40 unders, a horse you have right on top. The workouts pattern's been very strong. Has actually been working in tandem with Opry. If you take a look at that workout on September 21st, it's the same as Opry. So there's a lot to like with Social Paranoia, and if for some reason gets lost in the mix, 10-1 offers some really good value.
Yeah, I have this horse underneath out of the Todd Pletcher barn. They're going to put the blinkers on, winning 28% of his first-time blinkers is Pletcher. Overall, with the blinkers on, winning 27%. And as you said, that bullet work really does hit you right in the face. I think the horse is coming into this race in razor-sharp form and looked great last time out. With a little bit of a closing kick, I didn't think the horse had in him. So 10-1 offers a lot of value, and the horse has been working out for Todd Pletcher very impressively, and he does a good job at the first time with these first-time blinkers. And to remind everyone, Opry was a maiden going into that stakes race. You're getting kind of the same feel here with Social Paranoia, still a maiden entering a Grade 3 event on the grass.
Another one to fear in here is going to be the number 9, Spirit Animal, Chad Brown. Klarovich, Jose Ortiz, 4-1 on the morning line. A winner in the second career start, getting onto the turf for the first time up at Saratoga, going the mile 16th distance. One that was able to rate in that situation, got the job done, going clear and passing the leaders at the top of the stretch. Thought that was a very good performance. The only slight problem is Javier had the choice of Opry or Spirit Animal, and he chose Opry in this spot. So that's why you're seeing Jose Ortiz aboard on this one, but is another one to use solidly in any sort of win placer show, exacta, trifecta deals. Spirit Animal is definitely one to fear in the spot.
Yeah, I agree there. You get 4-1 on Chad Brown on the grass and the graded stakes. You take advantage of that if you're playing multiples or if you're an exotic player. The thing about Spirit Animal is this horse, I don't really know how this horse wants to run. It looks like the horse wanted to close first time out, did none of that. It looked like the horse wanted to get to the lead, did that a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think Spirit Animal is going to run the same exact race. There is an abundance, a little bit of speed in here. So it could set up perfectly for Spirit Animal. And beat a nice horse last time out, Hubba Boom, who won a couple races at the championship meet down in South Florida.
Number 10 rounding out the field is Pipes, Gary Contessa, Jose Lascano. Launch on in here, 20-1 on the morning line. Did win last time out in an off-the-turf event going a mile and a 16th, but clobbered the field by 6 3/4. You take a look at that one turf race, sprinting 5.5 at Saratoga. Was a closing third, only beating a half the length against the likes of a couple decent horses in here. One that liked the stretch out last time out, you like to see that, has a couple quick workouts. Maybe one of those horses that you just throw in there as a price.
Yeah, and how many times you see Jose Lascano absolutely blow?
He loves the turf.
Exactly.
I mean, if there's one thing that you have to know about Jose Lascano, he excels on the turf course.
Yeah, exactly. And he had his little suspension the first 2 weeks, and he's come to Belmont, and he's running the money 14 times in 29 starts, winning 24% of his races. So you see it time and time again on these big days. Jose Lascano will blow up your pick 5, blow up your pick 4 on a huge price horse in a graded stakes event.
All right, ultimately, what'd you go with here in the Belmont 9th on Saturday? It's the Grade 3 Pilgrim.
I already alluded to it. I went 40 under. I thought that was a very impressive win last time out. You're getting a great price at 6-1. Has a little bit of speed in here as well with Manny Franco. Social Paranoia, I'm getting the Opry feel here for Todd Pletcher. The horse is working out great, going back to the turf course where the horse looked great last time out, losing to my top choice by half a length. Took a ton of money that day. You're getting that Opry feel where Opry went into a grade 3 on the grass at the mile and 16th at Saratoga as a maiden and won it at a really nice price. And then I do have Opry underneath. I think this horse will be ready. Javier chooses to stay with this horse because of that impressive performance last time out. But this is another tough race. These two-year-old races on the grass really are tough.
Yeah, I went 4, 5, 7, and 8 in this spot. We're going to try to upset the favorites in here with the number 4 Vineyard Style. I'm going to go first time onto the turf. They wanted to do so in the career debut, was washed off that day, finished a solid second behind Standard Deviation. Michael Dilger's horse has been running really well. The pedigree's there. The dam was 3 for 7. Stormy Atlantic has the sires 15% with turf starters. So I just think 12-1 Edgar Prado is going to be aboard. I think this horse is a live long shot. I'll use him on top. Underneath, Opry in the second spot. Logical favorite in here off the performance last time out, first time on the turf. Came with a really sharp closing kick. I think one to fear in the lane here at 9-5. Probably going to be shorter. And then the 7 to round it out. That's Some Like It Hot Brown off that second place performance to Opry. As you said, if you like Opry, you have to like Some Like a Hot Brown. I think with a better trip could absolutely win this race. And then the 8 to round it out. A horse that you like you said, a horse that hasn't won yet, 0 for 4. But it's just been knocking on the door time and time again. Obviously, Todd Pletcher thinks this horse is just as good as the field in this type of spot. Racing this horse in Graded Stakes Company could easily go on to maiden special weights and try to break the maiden that way. But they think this horse has a really good upside. So 10-1 offers really good value, and I'll use the horse as my long shot play in the Grade 3 Pilgrim. All right, that's going to take us to our final break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the big one. It's the Jockey Gold Cup.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Welcome back to the Capital TV Stakes Preview. Mike Callahan, Sully Crotty. We are through 4 of the 5. We were up to the big one on Saturday. It's the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup. $750,000 purse, 3-year-olds and upward. They're going to go 1.25 miles on the dirt. Going to go in numerical order. There's a lot of notable names and a lot of European imports coming in, so you like to see that. Number 1, Carlino, a winner last time out, and a 2 other than optional claimer, going 1 1/8 up at Saratoga. You take a look at the overall body of work. Does need to improve buyer-wise. One that is versatile, showed speed 2 starts back. Last time out, came from off the pace. And for me, I had in my long shot play at 30-1. I think this horse could absolutely round out supers or tries in this situation, especially if you see a couple of these horses who have been sporadic, like Gronkowski and Mendelssohn, just to name a few. Also Thundersnow, who's been erratic, but Carlino for me is a live long shot in here at 30-1.
Yeah, definitely a live long shot, and I talked about it this morning on HR with Seth, and Mark Henning does a great job of bringing these horses from optional claimers up to graded stakes. Now, this is a very tough graded stakes to enter, but the closing speed is going to be very interesting here with Jose Lezcano. We just talked about him, but this isn't on the grass. He has the potential to blow up the pick 5, and this horse is going to be flying late, and Jose Lezcano is going to probably put this horse in a nice spot like we've seen the last 3 starts, and the horse has been at big prices, or really nice prices the last 3 starts.
Number 2 is Gronkowski, Chad Brown, 4-1 on the morning line. Jose Ortiz is going to go back aboard, was aboard for the first North American start in that Belmont Stakes, where the horse kind of blew up the exacta that day with Justify, was 25-1, finished second, beaten only a length and 3/4 to the great Justify, who since has gone on and retired, but is one of 2 3-year-olds that's facing older in here. So you want to note that when you're taking a look at your handicapping. Take a look at the last one, though, in the Travers, when the horse was bet down to 3.5-1 that day. Finished 8th, beaten 13 3/4. That was against the likes of Catholic Boy. I know that was a very good day for you on Travers Day. But for me, Gronkowski really didn't get the best of it. The track was playing to speed all day and pretty much all week, if everybody remembers on Travers Week how speed was playing. Gronkowski with a horse that fell to the back. Really didn't do much running. I think you're going to get a better situation in here, and I have solidly in my mix.
Yeah, I have Gronk in my mix as well, and the horse ran great here at the Belmont, as you said. Probably won't be 14 lengths off the lead here. I think we'll sit probably the same trip as the Travers. We'll have a much left, and as you said, very speed-favored track at the Travers that day. But 4-1 offers a lot of value for this horse that does have a nice closing kick, and there's not too much other closing speed in here, and there is a lot of speed in here to make the fractions and in Gronkowski's favor.
The number 3 is Mendelssohn, going to go out for Aidan O'Brien. Really needs no introduction. Ryan Moore, 7-2 on the morning line. The big $3 million purchase who went on to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year at Del Mar back on November 3rd. Really had the coming out party then, but the real coming out party was in the UAE Derby when the horse just demolished the field that day against Rhea Reride, just to name a few, won by 18.5, and really was the buzz horse coming from overseas to run in the Kentucky Derby. Problem was, in the Kentucky Derby, it was a nightmare trip. Horse didn't like the slop at all, got bounced around, finished dead last that day, eased up at 6-1. Then, coming off a little bit of a freshening, finished 3rd in the Dwyer, then ran a really good second to Catholic Boy, finishing 2nd, beaten 4, but was clear of the rest in the Travers. Mendelssohn is a confusing horse to a lot of people. I like him in this spot. Is going to be forwardly placed, does not need the lead. But if Mendelssohn's ready and he runs back to any of his huge performances, I have him right on top. He's a big player.
He definitely is a big play here, and I think if he runs a repeat race to the Travers, he can win this race here. And as you said, he's one of the 3-year-olds facing older. You got to take that into a little bit of an account. But as you said, the UAE Derby, that was very impressive. The Kentucky Derby, you can give a pass to. And I thought the Dwyer, it doesn't look great on paper. I did not think it was a bad effort at all. We know how big of a stud Firenze Fire is.
Came back to win last week.
Won last week, so no shame there. The horse took a lot of money. Sprint, going that 1-turn mile at Belmont, went to Saratoga, and as you said, really ran a big Travers race. I think you're getting a really fair price at 7-2 for Mendelssohn.
Number 4 is Patch, Todd Pletcher, Luis Saez, 20-1 on the morning line, won 4 back against the Allowance Company at Belmont. Here over the surface, so does have a victory, going the mile and 16th. The last 3, though, have been okay performances, the best being in that restricted stakes in the Alley Darp at Saratoga, finishing 3rd, only beating a length to Realm, and also Caroloof, who's a nice horse in his own regard. So for me, one of those horses that you have to You have to say maybe there's a possibility he rounds out the tries and supers, but that seems to be the maximum for Patch.
Yeah, I agree there. Obviously, everyone's a big fan of Patch, and I didn't think ran bad in the wood at all. I thought this had a really nice closing kick. I thought if Louis made the move a little bit earlier, it would have been a little bit more competitive in that race. You're getting a huge price, so if you like closing speed horses, Patch is the horse for you. But I'd rather go with Carlino or Gronkowski, especially Carlino at a bigger price, and I think has a better closing kick than Patch.
Number 5 is another long shot, Uno Mas Modelo, going out for Anthony Corderolo. Javier Castellano, 30-1 on the morning line, winner of 3 in a row, but it's been against much, much weaker. It's been against Allowance Company, and last time in an optional claimer, 2 other than, sprinting 6.5. So there are a lot of question marks going into it. The big class jump up to Grade 1 Company, the fact that this horse is stretching out to 1.25 miles in this type of situation off of a 6.5 sprint last time out up at Saratoga. But the price may be right for you, and a horse that's in really good form. A couple of these are coming off of some sporadic races. Uno Mas Modelo, or however you pronounce it, is one of those horses that could get lost in the mix at a huge price in here, and could definitely be a player, if not one of those horses you just use just because of the recent form.
Yeah, really nice 2018. I think you could use this horse underneath, and Javier's another one of those jockeys where you need him at 1-9. He kind of doesn't win for you, but he could blow up everything at 30-1. And that's one of these situations here again. Anthony Corderolo, not great with graded stakes. He hasn't won yet this year, but the horses look great the last 3 starts and has had a great 2018. I like how Javier is staying in the irons after this horse won at a fair price last time out at Saratoga. The stretch out is the big concern. I feel like you get a lot of those luge horses that play catch me if you can, and sometimes you just can't catch them. The big question is, can this horse handle hot paces with Diversify, who we're going to talk about next?
Number 6 is Diversify, going out for Richard Violette. Gerardo Ortiz Jr. is going to be aboard 4-5 on the morning line. This horse has done nothing wrong in the last 3, and really nothing wrong in the career. 10 for 15 as far as wins. Loves it at Belmont. 8 for 8 in the money, including 6 victories, and the other 2 blemishes were just second-place performances. So a horse that just loves it here over the Belmont surface, and the workout pattern's been unbelievable. There's a lot to like with Diversify. He's one of those horses that has speed early and has speed late. Really, it's just there's only one angle to go at. You pretty much the whole race is redeveloped around Diversify, because you have to know that he's going to go early. You have to play his game, and a lot of people are going to have to figure out what they want to do around him, because you know that he's going to do one thing. He's going to go for the lead, he's going to run quick fractions, and he's going to still be there late. So how do you kind of shape up around him is the real question. But 4-5 seems to be a fair enough price for a horse that's coming in rock solid.
Yeah, it really is a fair price, and I can't believe the horse was 6-1 in the Suburban. Absolutely phenomenal performance there, and backed it up in the Whitney. So that, out of the speed horses, obviously Diversify, and we've seen this horse run well in very, very fast fractions, which I think is in Diversify's favor, because I don't know if Mendelssohn can run in those fast fractions, even though he looked great in the Travers setting his own fractions up front. And Uno Mas Modelo, who we just talked about, that's the big question mark there for that horse. So going to be interesting to see how the other horses compete with and paper, where you think the fractions will be quick. Obviously deserving 4-5 favorite.
Yeah, I think the big X factor is going to be Thunderstone. We'll talk about him in a second, as we do still have to talk about Discreet Glover. But the fact that he drew well outside of Mendelssohn, and the fact that Thundersnow's in here, it's really going to be an interesting dynamic to see who gets applied pressure, who goes for the lead. Diversify is going, but who's going to apply some pressure with him? Does Mendelssohn do it? Does Thundersnow? Do both of them do it? It's going to be really interesting to see what kind of pace battle we get earlier on. On to number 7. It's going to be Discreet Lover, going out for Uriah St. Louis. 15-1 on the morning line. Manny Franco's going to be aboard. Back-to-back third-place performances, 2 and 3 back at huge odds to round out some nice triples. Last time out, a little bit of a dud. Finished 12th, beating 11.5 in the Grade 1 Woodward. Does have the ability to kind of round out tries, and has done so in 2 of the last 3 races. Does have that 103 buyer, but for me, just needs to improve.
Yeah, this is my potential long shot in here, because it's either going to be one of these races. It's going to be where Diversify wins, and you get a bomb underneath like we saw in the Whitney, or it's going to be chalk, chalk, chalk across the board. I'm hoping it's going to be where you can get a bomb underneath. I thought the horse ran great in the Whitney, 38-1 behind Mind Your Biscuits, who looked great going 2 turns, and then Diversify is Diversify. Didn't belong in the wood. I didn't like that move. They took a real big shot there. But Manny Franco's been riding great. The closing speed, I have right in my mix at a big price just to go underneath Diversify.
Rounding out the field is number 8, Thunder Snow, going out for Godolphin Racing. It's nice to see Christoph Simeon coming over. And again, you're going to see a name that's not familiar, but overseas, he is one of the leading riders and is the leading jock for Godolphin Racing. So you like to see him come over. He needs no introduction because he was one of those horses that came over for the Kentucky Derby and had a dreadful time that day. Ended up bucking when he came out of the gate. And really they just wanted to regroup. They put him on the turf course. He ran some decent races on turf. And really had his coming out party in the Dubai World Cup when he upset that day back in March 31st of this year against West Coast, Mutahij, and a bunch of others in there. Had a little bit of a long layoff, hadn't been seen since then. Showed up on August 22nd, ran a really weak performance that day, finishing 8th, but maybe just needed a race. And that was also on the turf. I think he's a better dirt horse than he is on turf. So I think you just draw a line through that last race. Just needed one. He's going to be one of those horses that likes to be forwardly placed. And again, that's where the whole race setup kind of applies in here. Where do you think everybody's going to be? But Thunder Snow at 6-1 at least, you have to say, offers some good value.
Yeah, there's a lot of value with Thunder Snow. And I've been saying it since the horse won the Dubai World Cup. Wouldn't it be very interesting and awesome if this horse, the horse that was the bunking Bronco in the Kentucky Derby last year, goes back for the Breeders' Cup and wins at Churchill Downs. So, he's got that going for him. Going back to the dirt, as you said, I think that's the correct call. The horse has 3 wins at the distance. 6-1 offers some value. And we just talked about it a little bit. It's going to be very, very interesting to see who wants to challenge the lead with Diversify.
Yeah, what are your thoughts in here as far as your 1, 2, 3, 4 picks in here, and how do you see the race kind of shaping up?
I went Diversify over Discreet Lover, over Thunder Snow, Gronkowski 4th. I think the speed holds up with Diversify. I think Thunder Snow runs a very credible race. I think Mendelson runs a very credible race, but I had to pick between one of the two, between Mendelson and Thunder Snow. I sided with Thunder Snow in the 3rd spot. But Diversify, it's one of those horses where in no way is this horse a potential single at 4-5. I think this horse is beatable in here. I just think the pace is going to be too hot for these other horses to handle, and we've seen Diversify handle that, and Diversify loves the Belmont course. 8 for 8 in the money with 6 wins.
Yeah, I have it 3, 2, 6, and 1. I am going to try to beat Diversify in this spot with Mendelson. Now, here's the way that I kind of perceive the race. Mendelson is a horse that usually likes to go for the lead, did so last time out. But if anybody remembers, you go back to that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf where he sat in the pocket and was able to track the leaders. I think Thunder Snow is going to be the horse that potentially goes with Diversify in here. I think they're just going to kind of attack each other. I think Ryan Moore is going to be clever and kind of sit back in here when everybody sees on paper that he's a little bit more forwardly placed, and he could potentially be so. I think Mendelson's going to sit that dream trip, sit the pocket, and be able to angle out, and he's going to make himself and stamp himself as a big player going into this Breeders' Cup Classic. I think there's still a lot of ability he hasn't shown in 2018. He did so in the UAE Derby, but really hasn't done so since. I think 7-2 is going to offer some good value in here, and I'll use him on top. Underneath, Gronkowski. I think last time, just throw out that race. His race in the Belmont Stakes was very, very good against Justify. It was really one of those situations where he ran a winning race and just ran into a huge Triple Crown champion in Justify. So I think you throw that race out last time out. He's a big player in here at 4-1. I'll use him in the 2nd spot. And then Diversify, like you said, he's not a single in this situation, just based on the fact that you have some really quality horses that could apply some serious pressure. Last race against Mind Your Biscuits and Discreet Lover really just had it his own way. No one really wanted to go with him. They were all afraid that they were going to, pretty much tire themselves out, and really was really going to be no factor in this situation. So I Diversify in the 3rd spot. I wouldn't be shocked to see him win it all. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go wire to wire in this instance. I just think there's too many things unknown in here to take a price at 4-5 in this situation. Carlino has my long shot in here. I think he could come home and round out some nice supers in here. It's a very interesting race. It's a huge card on Saturday, especially at Santa Anita, as they have multiple graded stakes races, and then also at Belmont, as we just went over 4 of the 5 in that pick 5. So good luck on Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week to talk some more stakes preview action. Until we see you again, take care.